Greetings everyone, welcome to slide 4 of this particular assignment. You may have noticed in the first 3 slides you were doing lots of math without using numbers, which, well, let's be honest, probably made some of you happy. But that trend falls on its face here in slide 4. So we're going to be identifying the scale of a graph, and you need to get 10 of these correct. And you may notice from where it says part 1 that there'll be more parts of this coming. So in this assignment, you'll be given a graph with an unlabeled axis and a point on the graph. You will then be asked to identify the scale of one of the axes on the graph. So with that under our belts, let's see what this looks like, shall we? Use the graph to the left to fill in the table below and find the scale of the y-axis. So first thing to notice here is that we've got this point over here on the graph. And I'll kind of do this just to help you focus in on that. And so I've got the ordered pair that represents the location of this point, 120, 1500. So that's an x value and a y value. And so what this table is designed to do is to walk you through the process of figuring out what the scale must be for the y-axis. And when I say scale, what I mean is you'll see these lines coming across here. And each gap between the line represents a certain number of numbers, as it were. It's just like any other number line where you would have these marks, and each mark has a number, and there's a certain distance between the marks. And it's the same distance between those marks on graphs like these. So the question is, for this particular graph here, what is the spacing of these marks on the y-axis? How much is each one of those spaces worth? And so walking through this process will help you see that. So first thing we're asked is, what is the y-coordinate of the ordered pair? So remember, it's alphabetical order, x, then y. So the y-coordinate for this is 1500. The next question is, how many grid spaces are between this point and the x-axis? So be careful here. Notice it says x-axis, even though we're looking for the scale of the y-axis. To find this, we need to know the distance between the x-axis and where this point is. So how many spaces is that? Well, it's 1, 2, 3 spaces. So how many grid spaces are there? Well, there are 3. And now the final question is, well, what is the scale of the y-axis? Well, if we know that these 3 spaces divide that 1500 evenly, then that each one of those spaces must be equal to 1500 divided by 3. And so you can put that in your calculator, and you can find that means each one of those boxes, or each one of those spaces, must be worth 500. So if I were to label them, that would be 500, that would be 1000, and that would be 1500 right there. And so by finding that y-coordinate, how many spaces it was to the axis, and then dividing them, I can now find the scale of that axis. So it's 500, and when you are finished, what you can do is simply put your answers in the box. Now, the computer's not going to accept these answers that I've written over top, but when you say check your answer, it'll tell you if you're correct or not. Obviously, I'm incorrect since I didn't put anything in the boxes. But notice what it says there where it says, see the warning labels in the table below for details. So what will happen, I will put in some wrong answers just so you can see, is that for every wrong answer, there's this little triangle pops up. And if you hover your mouse over that little triangle, which sadly I think is cut off by the video, it will tell you the correct answer was, and then whatever that number was. So if you missed something, you can see exactly what you missed so that next time you can fix it. All right, best of luck. Remember, you need 10 of these correct. And as always, if you get into a tight spot, ask somebody for help.